Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bobbbaaaay. Each week with our guest episodes, I try to put the spotlight on someone who in my eyes is tapping into their inner potential. Our guest today is originally from Belarus and moved to Mill Creek, Washington when he was 5 years old. He's a photographer, filmmaker based out of Seattle, Washington. His passion has taken him across the globe to places like Costa Rica, Turkey, Paris, Dubai, Jordan, and more. He's worked with brands such as Monster, Lumix, Cuts, Lamborghini, and more. Today on the podcast, fellow bearded brother, must I add, Rob Strok, baby.
Hey, I feel like I grew it out just for you, just for this podcast.
You've been letting it grow out. He's like, I got the podcast on the schedule a week from now. I got to make sure this thing is out fully ready to go.
Exactly. It's the Two Bearded Men podcast now. So
the Two Bearded Men podcast. I'll have to update the feed by the time this episode drops. So people are like, what happened? Now it's Two Bearded Men. Rob's now going to be the honorary guest every single week on the podcast.
Sounds like a blast. I'm in.
Rob, I'm so excited to talk to you, man. I just looked up before we got into this today. You're 24 years young, and you are absolutely crushing it in a magnitude of ways. And to me, what I see is somebody that has found their passion, who has been able to just give them the permission to follow through and chase after it. And you've stayed consistent long enough that it has literally become your career. And I think that's so admirable for people like you who like, that there's a point in time where you had to like tell yourself like, yeah, I actually want to go for this, because we see where you are today, but there was a moment in time when you're just like anyone else where it's like, I have this idea, like, do I want to go for it? Do I not? But you've been able to do that. And I think there's just going to be so much to talk about today. And I'm really excited to have you here today, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Likewise. And yeah, I appreciate all the praise, but yeah, it's been a good journey. I'm excited to share.
Great, man. Yeah, that Cuts piece you guys did was phenomenal. So shout out to Brelly and the Cuts team. If you haven't seen it yet, ladies and gentlemen, you got to go check that out on YouTube. But talk to me about kind of those early moments. I know when you were first getting started, you'd go on these like 5-hour road trip with your friends. And at the time, it's just purely, it's like you guys are listening to this inner voice of just like interest of like shooting photos, maybe creating some videos out of it. But what is this initial interest in you to want to pick up a camera in the first place?
Yeah, so actually I think it goes back a few years before that. So I think I started like taking photos and kind of recording videos and all that when I was like around 11, 12 years old. I became obsessed with like YouTube and watching different YouTube videos. And for some reason I came across like, I guess the subject of tech, like technology, iPhones, all of that kind of stuff. That was all kind of just coming out. And I saw these YouTube videos and I was like, hey, maybe I can do that myself. So there I was like 12, 13 uploading videos to YouTube about like the coolest iPhone case or something like that. My parents,
you were a tech reviewer in the beginning.
I mean, I don't like to call myself that, but yeah, I guess I was. And then, so I did that for a bit. My parents were like, what is this 13-year-old posting on YouTube for? Like, people are going to come find us. It's the internet, all that kind of stuff. So it started then, and then I did videos for a bit, and then once I got older and like was able to get a car, so like around that 16 age, I was like, all right, enough with the tech. Like, I want to go explore something else. And since I had a car now and I had a camera, I was like, hey, like, let's go explore the things around me. Since I live in Washington, I live in a beautiful state. And a lot of the time I've just been kind of trapped in my surroundings here. So I was like, hey, 2 hours away, we can go to the coast or we can go to this waterfall. And then from there, it just kind of started to branch out. And from like 16 to 18, all I would do like after college, after school, is go on these road trips with my friends, like you said, like somewhere 5-6 hours long, where we would go just to capture, a few images. And I think that's where I really started to fall in love with like photography and videography, because it was like those moments and like the time I spent with friends all to get that one photo. Like that photo then really spoke to me in the end, because it's just one image, but there's a whole story and adventure behind it. And being so young and getting to see those things was an awesome start.
Oh, that's amazing. Was there like even then, so you're in that early process of like, this is something that you're interested in, you're trying it out and you're having fun with it and you're with friends and you guys are traveling around, but was there a specific moment when you're like, this is the career, like this is what I'm going to do? Because you did go to college for some time. Yeah. Which is very interesting place for people to be, where like myself, I was telling you before, I went to college and then I'm like, yeah, by the time I graduate, I'm gonna have it all figured out. That was not the case. So for you, is there finally a moment where you're like, not only is this something I enjoy doing, but this is going to be my career and I'm I'm going to find a way to make a living doing this?
Yeah, so I think there was a moment probably like 2 years after that, after I was already taking images quite a bit. I kind of established myself on Instagram a little bit, had a bit of a following. And at that moment, I think I was going to college full time and I was working at Best Buy at the moment. And I basically like, placed a bid for this one job for Google. And I was like, hey, if I get this job, if it gets accepted, I'm just going to quit right now and I'm going to like put my focus towards photography because, what I'm doing in school, I don't really like right now. Obviously working at Best Buy is not my dream job either. So I was
Got to
like,
do
you
what you
know
got to
what?
do in the beginning. Got to do what
Yeah,
you got to
yeah. And it
do.
was it was like my first like bigger job and I was like, all right, if I can get this one at, like 18 years old, like I'll just put all my time and effort and see where that kind of takes me.
Wow, man. Talk about putting all the eggs in one basket. Like if I lock this in, I got to go all in on it.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, I had a good friend tell me that I was kind of in this decision period where it's like, hey, do I leave school? Do I focus on photography? Or I guess like my parents were pretty adamant about me going to school. So it made it a little bit of a difficult situation. And
Mm.
my friend said, hey, why don't you try your best? Like, try the career path that you want to. And then if it doesn't work out, you can always go back to school. And after that, I kind of had the mindset where I'm like, hey, let's put all the eggs in one basket. Let's try this out for a year, and if I'm able to like push through the barricades and all that, and get to a good level where I'm happy, like that's great. That's where I want to be at. And like the worst that can happen is I'll just be exactly where I'm at now, which is I'll just go to school, get a degree, and I'll continue on with that. So
That's the beautiful mindset to have is like worst case scenario, I'll just pick up where I left off, or
yeah,
these moments of like putting your back against the wall. I'm going, there's no other way for me to go but forward. And if this doesn't work out, to me, it's always like you can live the rest of your life knowing at least I gave it a shot. There's nothing worse, I think,
yes,
in this
yeah,
world than to have this inner regret years down the line. Like I always tricked myself into believing like if I was older version of myself on my deathbed, as like not the topic anybody wants to talk about, but like would I regret not sending the cold email, asking that girl out on a date, or trying this passion or this interest of mine? Would I regret it? Absolutely. Okay, so what does that mean? I got to go for it. And if I fail or if I flop, I can know that at least I took the shot and I went for it.
no, no, exactly. Like I love that. It's and like thankfully for me, I was like still at a pretty young age, so it's like, hey, I'll come back to college at 21. Like that's pretty normal,
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
crazy. So for me, yeah, that motivated me to just push through. And I mean, I had that passion there. If I was like working basically full time, going to school full time, and doing photography, I knew if I just took that time, allocated it towards like my career and the career path that I wanted to do, I felt like I could reach those destinations, reach those goals, and I guess it worked out. It was nice to bet on myself
Yeah.
and have it work out. But
And he's still going strong. Still got a whole career ahead of him.
yeah, yeah,
Talking to me like that process of like monetizing a passion is not easy to do, right? I gave a
yeah,
call out to some of the brands earlier in the intro of like Monster, Lumix, Cuts, Lamborghini. I mean, these are massive brands that they are not just signing deals and working with anybody and everybody. It's a very exclusive thing. They know that their reputation, their brand is on the name. How have you gone about getting yourself to this place where the top brands not only want to work with you, but then obviously it is the avenue or a avenue to monetize and make this a career for you?
yeah. So I mean, that's definitely like a journey, and I feel like that path is very different for a lot of people because it
Mm.
depends like what brands you're kind of working towards. Of course, like you can do the more like happy, excited, like crazy vlogs on YouTube or stuff like that. But ever since the beginning, I was really focused on cinematography and like making cool videos, making films. So I kind of chose the more like professional route where I'd tell a story with my video and like make it all cinematic. And I think from there, like I kind of established my style. And so when companies come to me, that they look for like professionalism
Mm.
as well as like the films that I have made before. So I think like I kind of chose a niche of like, hey, this is what I want to focus on. This is what you get when you work with me. And I think brands come for that reason exactly, is they're like, hey, we trust this guy because every video is consistent, every video is like filmed well, done well, has a storyline, and hopefully they believe in the person behind it as well. So That's I guess my best take at that.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense. You bet on what you know is your style or your strengths of what you want to portray to the world, and that's going to attract the brands that clearly see what you produce and want to do that. But how was that an easy or difficult process of finding your style, right? Like people see your work today and they know that's
Mhm.
you can tell by clicking into something like as it's happening, like, oh, this is definitely a Rob Strok piece. But to find your creative lane, to find your creative voice is, as I'm sure, and I've been through it myself of like finding my lane as a podcaster, I had to pull inspiration from a lot of people to then become the podcaster I am today. So I always tell people, it's like, yeah, I'm the Bearded Man podcast, but I am a mixture of all these different podcasts that have inspired me, that I've learned from, and that's what you're seeing today. So was that a process for you of like trying to find how you wanted to define yourself as a creative in the world?
Yeah, so I think for me, I guess that process was, it was kind of like a broad moment of my life, because I think it started from when I did do like tech YouTube videos. I was like, hey, I
Mm.
love this. Let me try it out and see how it goes. And like at that point, I was very young. I was just learning how to use a camera and all that. And then when I got a little bit older, I was like just filming like home videos, vlogs, and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, I'll give this a try. And then I guess like as time progressed, I did like just nature shoots, and then I was like, hey, let me focus on like more well produced films. And I think that's what I started to enjoy, and I just focused on that. I mean, I'm thankful now that I'm not like a tech YouTuber. I'm happy that didn't work out, but I did go through like all these, I guess, like testing phases of different ways I could express my art, and I kind of landed on this one. And I think, like what you said, important, pulling from different sources, like seeing what other people doing and like creating the best version of that for yourself. I think that's important, and I think also trying out like a bunch of things, kind of like what we went back to. If you fail, if it doesn't work out, just try something new, try something else. And I think a lot of people are scared to do that. They see something they like, they focus all their attention on that, but maybe they're better at something else. Maybe they'll find something else that they enjoy. So I think for some people it could be like a quick process over a year. They try a bunch of things and land on something they love. And I feel like for me, it's been building over the last like 12, 13 years, and
Mm.
kind of all those experiences led to, what I enjoy shooting now, and the product that I put out for my clients.
Yeah, you're not gonna find the right answer by just sitting there and thinking like this is the right strategy, this is the way I need to go, this is the branding, this is who I'm gonna be to the world. You have to actually put action behind these ideas in order to go, do I actually enjoy this? Like, do I enjoy making the tech videos, or do I enjoy traveling, or do I enjoy working with the products? Like the only way to find it though is to actually take those actions, take those steps forward to see like, is this working or is this not working? And then that's obviously once you lock eyes on it and figure out this is the thing I want to do, it's always this work in progress of, even today, I'm sure it's like you are going to be your own biggest critic of like, all right, this is where I'm at, but like I got all these things I need to work on and do. And that's the fun part of it all is like there's always going to be more room to grow. It doesn't matter the level of success or who you are. There's always going to be just something else, the smallest little details of how we can become a better version of ourselves and whatever it is that we do.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, I guess like all that time and love that you put over it over the years, it'll make you who you are. And all those experiences, maybe, you're trying something else out, maybe it didn't work out, but you learned something important for, the next step of the process.
Yeah.
So, trying a little bit of everything, diversifying yourself. And like even sometimes I throw myself into projects that I'm not necessarily comfortable with, but I do that, as like a learning experience. Maybe it's something
Mm.
that I'll enjoy creating or working on in the future. And it's great to get at a good level where you're happy with your skills, but it's always important to keep on pushing and always want to take it one step ahead, because I feel
Yeah.
like that's how you get ahead of the competition.
Yeah. If you're not seeking the discomfort of life, you're never going to grow because it's very easy to kind of sit back, relax, go on autopilot mode and be like, everything's working. Why disrupt it? Like, but at some point you have to put yourself in those uncomfortable positions of taking on the client that you're like, I don't know if this is really up my expertise level or is it something I'm going to enjoy. But the only way you're going to figure that out is actually throwing yourself into the fire and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
I think a really important piece to life is not only finding your passion, but also finding almost like a bigger purpose. Some would argue calling it your true north, where to me, passion is it's the vehicle. It's the vehicle that you're driving every single day. It's what you do on a day to day. Purpose to me is like the destination, and it's not ever really a destination you're ever going to reach because it's kind of this bigger reason for why you do what you do. And I had seen, and definitely in a recent piece of yours, I can't recall what it was, but you talked about how the inspiration for you to create really is to help move people and help them gain a different perspective for life through your work. What is fueling you to want to help other people?
Yeah, well, first off, I love how you put that. That was great.
Those are your words, not mine, my friend.
No, I know, but I mean, you nailed it right on the dot. I was like, wow, that's great. Yeah, no, I love, finding purpose in the videos and
Mm,
kind of, having other people be moved by my work. I think that's really important. Um, and I think it's just, I guess I started traveling at one point and then seeing the different scenarios that people are living in all around the world and realizing that maybe my problems here back at home aren't that big. And then also like showing off cool things about every culture, every, location. I think it's important for people, especially nowadays, to like broaden their perspective and see what else is out there, because a lot of the time we put ourselves in like such a small bubble of where we live or whatever. And for me, that was Mill Creek, Washington for a while. And
mm.
I didn't know really anything kind of like outside of that, around that. And with traveling, I feel like I started to like learn more lessons and started to learn like more about life. And I wanted to kind of share some of those messages with the people on the internet, maybe people who are not fortunate enough to be able to travel to all those different destinations and see the beauty around the world, as well as learn something new from a different culture. And so the videos kept on going, and I loved seeing people's reactions to what else they learned, or maybe they booked a ticket to wherever I went. So like seeing the response to all my previous work was really cool, and that gave me purpose and fuel to keep on going. And it's like a cycle. You release something, you see how it moves people, and you want to move more people kind of along the way. So yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, you're the ripple effect of like a rock being thrown into the water where everything is still your video drops and it ripples. It has effects on people that to see it. I vicariously live through the pieces that you've created because I've never and I like it's one of those things that I need to do more of. It's just I feel like the timing has never been right, but I need to step outside of this beautiful country of the US and go explore and see. Like I've only been this is so classic. I've been outside the country and I've only been to Cancun and the Bahamas, right? Both
Yep,
vacation, like
yep.
living the life, tequila,
Hey,
having a
for,
grand old
for
time.
for a lot of people, that yeah, those two spots that's all they've been.
And hey, no shame if you go.
No, no
Like,
shame at all.
please
Yeah.
keep going back. But it's like when I see some of these pieces that you've put out and the places you've traveled, it's like your perspective of the world and life is so unique than the majority. I don't know what percentage of the world, but like there's got to be a very high percentage in the 90s of like percentage of people that never leave the country they were born in. And it's like, scenarios and situations are clearly out of our control, but that's the beautiful thing. It's like I'm able to click in and watch some of these pieces and live through it, even though I've never actually been. And then you make the comment of like people are like then buying tickets and going to these spots, which is amazing. Is there a specific moment traveling? I don't want to say that's impacted you the most, but is there something that kind of comes to mind, even when I kind of bring this up of like when you were traveling, you saw X and it kind of either reshifted your perspective or kind of just has been a reminder from time to time of like, hey, I might not be in a great headspace today, but I remember when we were traveling to blank.
Yeah, I think in like the French Polynesian Islands, there's this place called the Marquesas Islands, and they're very disconnected from the world still. And I've been there like a few times now, and going to those places and just like hearing how the people live there, like what they've gone through, and they're out, like if you look it up, they're out in the middle of the ocean, kind of out there all by themselves, and seeing like the kids run around and have a good time like at sunset, and seeing how important family is to them, and seeing how like everybody comes together, and everybody learns to kind of live on the island and supply each other with everything they need. And I think that was like a really big turning point for me, because at the kind of previously before that, I was just trying to make cool videos, things that looked cool, like cool cars, kind of cool experiences. And I think ever since like kind of that moment, I was like, okay, we can include all of the cool stuff, but then where can we benefit other people? Where can we like teach something? Where can we provide value from like the videos that I create, rather than just showing people something cool? And I think like from that moment on, I tried to incorporate something into my pieces that would benefit other people or teach them something, like like the elephant sanctuary in Thailand, where people can learn about that and learn the difficulties of elephants in Southeast Asia. To a lot of people, that might be like a very foreign problem, but if they can hear something about that, and
Mm.
they're impacted to make a change through a piece that like I recorded, or a message that I shared, I think that's really valuable. And then so kind of like all of these situations built up, and I always try to include something cool, or try to include like a little gem of something people can learn throughout the videos as well.
Yeah, it's even just recently seeing a lot of things that are happening in Afghanistan. It's like these moments where I'm just like reminded of like you are so grateful for just the life you live. Like there's so many more layers to it, but it's like just seeing what is really happening in different parts of this world that they just when you see it on TikTok, Instagram, whatever feed it almost just feels like you're watching a movie that it's just it no, there's no way. Like I
Hmm.
can walk down the street and get a cup of coffee and I'm safe and there's police officers and there's a firefighter that'll come if my house is on fire, but it literally is like so uh awakening to realize like that is this I don't even know what I would call it, but like this reality that I'm living in is not the case for other places around the world. And um, it just amazes me how we can all be guilty of just not being aware of it and not really realizing the scale of which it's actually hurting people.
Yeah, I think a little travel is good for everybody, just because they can see what other people are going through, or see that hey, maybe life isn't that bad. And a
Yeah.
lot of the times, again, like we were talking about, we focus on the little bubble, our little town, our little city, our country, but then we don't realize the struggles and pain people are going through all around the world. And I feel like for some people, if they were able to travel a little bit and see outside them, it would really like change their mindset. And maybe instead of searching for division, people would start to come together and see how we can make the world as a whole a better place, rather than just our little town. So if I inspire people to travel through my videos and see something new, I think that's a win in my book, because maybe that changed their perspective on something. Maybe it made them a better person. Maybe they just saw something cool, and they'll take that memory with them for the rest of their life. So yeah, I think making these videos is great for that reason exactly. Is I get to share those experiences with people who sometimes don't, and hopefully those people that haven't seen those experiences get to go out and travel a little bit. And then yeah, and then maybe we could focus on huge issues around the world together. And yeah, man, it's crazy to be caught in our little bubble, but like you said, it'd be awesome for people to come together, have a good time.
Yeah. Another thing people see is this life that you live, right? And if somebody's listening and they think of Rob Strok, they're like, yeah, this man lives the life. He gets to travel. He gets to work with all the big brands. He gets to do all the fun stuff, right? But behind the IG feed and the YouTube videos, what they don't see is this quiet, lonely, solitude moment along the way. What have been some of the sacrifices that you've had to overcome to get to where you are today?
So you mean like sacrifices through like the journey, or
Yeah, just
like
anything in general, whether it's just like, um, I mean, traveling, right? You're missing out on things that are happening within your family, or um, there's like sacrifices within of itself of like relationships if you're out traveling all the time, or anything that you've had to kind of uh, sacrifice in general just to get to where you are today.
Yeah, so I think definitely like what you mentioned, family. That was a really big one for me for a while, because it went from like, me being home all the time to me being gone 8 months out of, the 12. And like, I have a younger brother and stuff growing up, and my parents always want to see me. And like, I guess family is just really important, especially, immigrating from Russia. Like, we keep our, family really tight, and all my grandparents are here now. And so that was really tough because like I'd see family members and they'd be like, "Hey, like where you been at? Like, oh, you missed my birthday," or like, "Oh, you weren't there."
Wow.
So that was definitely a tough sacrifice. And I was like, "Okay, guys, like let me travel for a little bit. Like I'll be back. Just like I'm working on something, like I'm working, if anything, like almost on myself. Like trying to find what I want to do for a living, trying to find like where my headspace is at and all that." So I think like as terrible as the situation COVID is, it's allowed me to kind of like reconnect and sit down with my family a bit more, and have just a casual dinner with them rather than just seeing them during the holidays. So that's been a big sacrifice, but I think it's something that like I've learned in the last year and a half to really value and really cherish. And like once everything does open back up and traveling is kind of like going, to maybe like think about like restricting my trips a little bit just to get that
Wow.
quality time with my brother or something like that. So I think like again, like this COVID thing's been a roadblock, but if anything, it's taught me something along the way, something that I had to deal with for a while.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you probably haven't had this much stillness since earlier in your career when when you weren't traveling around the world. So it's like this must have been like a complete wake. I like forget people like yourself who literally their careers were built on you like traveling all the time.
Hmm.
You got affected the most. I'm like somebody that's like, oh, I can't work in office, so I have to work from home, and I'm like, this is great. I like this shift. But you
Yeah.
go from like being on flights and traveling and changing time zones to literally just waking up in the same place every single day. How did it feel to get back to the roots of that stillness? Did you find creative block in it? Did you find, obviously the benefit obviously of being back with family is great, but was that a long challenge of trying to overcome, or how did you kind of lean into the last 18 months?
Yeah, so I think I went through phases. I think at first I was a little bit sad that all my trips were getting canceled just because I had an exciting year ahead. So seeing those trips get canceled and jobs get canceled left and right was kind of discouraging. But I think after a bit of time, came that like lesson where it's like, hey, I'm with my family more. I'm kind of reconnecting with my friends a bit more, which was I think really important, because it's easy to get caught up in the social media life. But when you have friends at home that can keep you grounded, I think that's
Mm,
really important. And I really haven't left Seattle or haven't moved away from the state really far away just because of that reason. It's because I can see my family, I can see my friends, and those people get me away from all the stuff that's happening on on the news, on social media, and kind of keep me in a good headspace going forward, for the next project or for the next trip I'm traveling to. So I think that became like a really important factor. But then as time has gone by, I think I'm ready to travel again and go have fun. So it's been coming in phases, but I'm ready to go now. Ready to
let's
go more than ever.
get this man on a plane ASAP. He's ready to freaking fire up the rocket and start moving along.
Yes, yes, please.
Oh, I love that. Quick break from today's episode, and then we'll get right back to it. Today's episode is brought to you by none other than the greatest hydration brand in all of the land, Liquid IV. Now, if you're watching, you can see visually this little beautiful packet. This is the watermelon flavor. These packets are an absolute game changer for myself, somebody that is always grinding, is always working, whether it is running them miles in the morning, whether it is crushing through some podcast episodes, whether it's dialing in on the work that I need to do for Liquid IV or literally any other area of my life. Liquid IV has been a game changer. And also, let's talk about the fact of when you're in the trenches on the weekend from doing a little too much partying, this is the thing to get you back out of the trench to make you feel better. It will help you reach your inner physical potential. It'll clear your mind, and it will help you just feel oh so much better. Liquid IV hydrates you faster and more efficiently than water alone. It contains 5 essential vitamins, more vitamin C than an orange, and as much potassium as a banana. It is healthier than sugary sports drinks, no artificial flavors or preservatives, less sugar than an apple. And it is made with clean ingredients, non-GMO, vegan, free of gluten, dairy, and soy. If you're wondering how in the world does this stick of product added to water benefit you, Liquid IV is effective because of cellular transport technology that is known on the streets as CTT. It is the optimal ratio of glucose, sodium, potassium that delivers water and nutrients into the bloodstream faster, more efficiently than water alone. It is the perfect balance to help you hydrate more quickly and effectively than water alone. One stick of Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water will hydrate you faster and more efficiently than water alone. I'm telling you right now, this product is a game changer. If you have not yet tried it already, I highly suggest you do so. My favorite flavors include watermelon, strawberry. We have an immune support product called tangerine. The flavor is tangerine, lemon lime's heat, strawberries heat, pina coladas heat. I mean, literally, there's a flavor for all your taste buds out there. So I would suggest you go and check out some of the products today. Now, you can get yours today by going to liquidiv.com and use my promo code TheBeardedMan, all one word. That's going to get you 25% off every order. Not one, not two, not three, every single order. So head over today to liquidiv.com, use my promo code TheBeardedMan for 25% off your entire order and start getting more hydrated today. It's going to be a game changer in your life. Let me know what you guys and gals think of the product. I think you're going to enjoy it. Enough of me talking. Back to the episode. Over this journey though of you of getting you to where you are today for only being 24 years young, which is mind-boggling to think because you've lived like multiple lifetimes at this point from all the traveling. How have you learned to become your biggest hype man? I think that's a really important aspect of not even a creative, just anybody out there that takes that first initial step to wanting to build their dream life, to do the thing that everyone else might question and say, like, why are you going to become a filmmaker? Why am I going to become a podcaster? Like, go to college, get a degree,
Yeah.
follow the safe route. How have you learned to become your biggest hype man and believe in yourself before the world even did?
Yeah. Again, that's a difficult question. I think for a while there was a point where I was like really doubting myself and questioning the path that I was taking. But I feel like anytime I put an idea into my head or I put a video into my head and I really put 100% towards it and like really, so, took all the details into account, tried my best. And then when I get that end result and I show it to people and seeing other people's reactions are very, very valuable to me, even if it's
Mm,
just like my family or my friends. And so I started to realize that when I do put in that effort and like I appreciate the journey along the way, I'm a lot more happier with my video because it's like, hey, like we're out here hiking at 5 a.m. Like I love this moment, like always telling
mm,
myself that this is great, this is great, this is part of the journey.
mm-hmm,
Like we're freezing outside filming in the snow. Like you don't want to be there, but you're like, no, this is part of the journey. And then when you see all of that come together, and thankfully I do more of like the traveling stuff, so seeing a whole trip come together and seeing all that process and those terrible moments, but also those highs, seeing that at the end of the day makes me personally so happy. And so I was like, hey, if I enjoy this, somebody's got to enjoy it, right? Like somebody's got to see the journey that I went through and be like, hey, that seems like a good time. And so I think just seeing that end result for myself made me so happy. And I'm just happy that when I uploaded that, other people saw that and were,
mm,
hopefully got like a little spark of joy from it. And so when I saw like I guess that end result, that was like that gave me the fire for the next one. It's like, all right, what else is cool that I can make? And of course, the journey had all of its road bumps along the way, but thankfully it all worked out and people enjoyed those videos as much as I did. And thankfully I have a career now where I can go and keep creating those.
yeah, that's amazing. I love that aspect of like you're like out there and it's like cold and you're like, man, what? Why are we out here? This is freezing out. But it's that subtle change of perspective of, oh, I don't have to be out here to freeze my ass off. I get to be out here. Like I get to work
Yeah,
out
yeah.
today. I get to have this incredible podcast with you. I get to do X. Like it that just changing that perspective almost allows you to step into that power of really appreciating the journey of the day-to-day grind, which is so easy to kind of lose the inspiration because we just want to get to these massive goals. And obviously we would just want to be in the top tier of whatever it is that we're trying to do. But when you can start seeing the subtle subtle day-to-day grind wins that really add fuel to the fire, you really begin to appreciate it more, and you get so much more excited for the day because you're not just like, oh, I get to do another podcast. Like, I still have 50 more to go before I'm at 150 podcasts. So like, we got to hurry up. It's like, no, I need to appreciate every single day of it. And then you start to, these small daily wins end up just being the biggest fuel because it's those little, as you know, those incremental baby steps every single day that with time amount to these just massive leaps, in time, 6 months to a year from now.
Yeah, and like what's crazy is like back in the day when I was going to college full time and I was working full time, I was like, and any free time I got outside of that, I would see that like as an opportunity. I'd be like, hey, I get to wake up this morning and like go on a hike. Like I have some free time. That's so amazing. And then you find yourself, like 4 or 5 years later, you're in a cool place around the world, and you're like, oh, I really have to get up for sunrise. And then that's the moment where you kind of take a step back and you're like, man, like 4 or 5 years ago, I would have done anything to get here. And now I'm contemplating going on a cool hike in a different, country. So it's like your perspective changes, but I feel like it's important to, always take a step back and be like, all right, this is where I started. Like I would have killed for this time, killed for this opportunity, but here I am now, like complaining about it. So, you just enjoy it and you move on.
Yeah, it's human nature though. It's not
Yeah.
just you, it's all of us. I'm guilty of it too. And that's something that I try to make a point as often as I need to do it is slow down, stop worrying about the direction of where you're going now and just look back. Look at where you came from. Like
Yeah. Love
the
that.
person of who you are today is the person you dreamed of being 3 to 5 years ago. So if that's the case, damn well appreciate it and let that be like, where am I going to be in 3 years from now? Now, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
Exactly.
it's the human nature in us all that we appreciate the wins along the way, but at some point it becomes normalized. The lifestyle that we live becomes the new norm, and of course, you just want to go bigger and better, and it's just this inevitable hamster wheel of always wanting to do bigger and to go farther.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I feel like that kind of energy also pushes us to get to, bigger places in life.
Totally,
So
totally.
as much as, if things are getting better and you're starting to complain about things, then like, let's take it a step further. And
Yep.
it's always like a little kick in the butt where it's like, all right, you made it this far. Like, let's keep moving as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. You made a comment earlier about sometimes hitting speed bumps along the way. Have there been any certain mistakes that you've made in your career that obviously at the time you're not happy with what happened, but down the line you're able to look back and be like, wow, I'm actually thankful that mistake happened because I learned something or it redirected the path I was on.
Yeah, I think there's definitely been like a few scenarios. I think for a while I struggled with, I was like 19, 20 years old, getting jobs with big clients, and I always, I was still young, so I didn't really necessarily have that like professionalism standpoint on, when I approach a job. And for me, I was like, cool, I get to travel, take some photos, whatever. And there's been times where there's like a list of places that I can't go, or a list of things that like the company would prefer that I don't do, like in the
Because
video
of
or in the
age,
footage.
because of age wise, or what was the problem?
Or it's just like something that they don't want to promote. Like, let's say it's like a tourism place. It's like, oh, this hike's illegal, or this,
Gotcha.
you can't go here, or please don't film this because we don't want, a lot of people filling up this parking lot or something like that. And for me at that point, I was like, you know what, whatever. I'm here to take the coolest photos. I'm here to do, kind of whatever I want. And, like I've had some situations with clients before where, like they're unhappy with, the way I treated them. And thankfully that was pretty early on in my career. So I was able to take a step back and be like, hey, every client that I get now, I'm gonna, treat with the utmost respect, treat them with, professionalism. I understand like I'm 18, 19 years old, but if I want to make this career and I want companies to take me on like bigger projects and
Mm.
really, and see what I'm capable of, I gotta, like shift my mindset that I'm not no longer just like a young photographer. Like I'm creating a business here. And that kind of, having that realization kind of like, moved me to create bigger, better projects, just because I started to gain trust from all like different clients and everything like that. So there's a lot of learning moments like that where I kind of went from, just a kid to like, hey, I'm starting a business and I'm trying to create something big. So I got to start acting like it.
Yeah, that's good. Even if you're not there just yet, it's that whole like fake it till you make it. And it's
Yeah.
not in the sense of like carrying yourself cocky and acting like you're the coolest guy in town, but more so like, yeah, I might not be on the biggest budget projects just yet, but I'm gonna carry myself and I'm gonna deliver as if I was, so that not only do brands notice that, and I hold myself to that standard, but then by the time the bigger deals actually come, you already know how to execute it because you've been treating yourself for these 6-figure project or for the 7-figure project. So I think that's a we all go through those moments when we're young, just
Yep.
like young and reckless. The world revolves around us. Like, I don't need you to tell me what I can and can't do. I'm just going to get you the product and you're going to be happy. But
Yeah.
we all go through that phase.
I think for a while that's almost important to have that kind of mindset, you know, where you're just like
Totally.
busting out projects like, oh, can't make any deadlines. You're trying your best. You're doing all that. Because then, you know, you'll know what to do in the future when you have a situation like that. But yes, at one point we all got to, you know, realize that we're trying to create like a business out of it. We're trying to do something big, and you got to start taking it seriously. And if you want to take it to the next level.
Yeah. Have you had to learn the power of no through your career, in the sense of like turning down opportunities or certain projects, whether it be you just don't believe in it, or you're just like, it doesn't feel right, or wanting to create the space so you're not committed to one thing, and then you're kind of crossing your fingers that a bigger thing will come? Has that been a learning for you?
Yeah, definitely. I was always like very protective of the brand that I built, and I was very careful with all like, you know, the jobs that I would take or what I'd be promoting, which I think was really cool because that kind of set me apart after a while, because there was the people that were just doing, you know, whatever job, they don't care, they're just trying to get some money.
Yeah.
And then for me, I was like, well, no, if I don't really believe in this product, or I don't like what they're trying to make me portray or whatever. Like I always had a pretty like straight line of, you know, what I'm accepting and what I'm not accepting. So I think that was really important for my brand, because I always kept it professional. The client would always, you know, like know what they got as an end result,
Mm.
and so yeah, I just kind of moved from there.
What were you looking for when saying yes to brands or clients, or even people you went on trips with? Like, what were the kind of the first couple of things were like, yes, 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 this is something I should do?
Yeah, well, a lot of the time it's when the brand gives you like full creative direction. So they let you, you know, they give you their product, they tell you like what you like, kind of what they want to portray, and then the rest is you. You make the video
Mm.
idea, you get to film it, you get to be, you know, the director, the producer, the everything, and like in the project. So that's probably like my number one thing I look for, is if they're willing to give me, you know, all of the creative freedom for a project, because I think that's what they're hiring me
Yes.
for most of the time. So if that's what they're going to hire me for, then, you know, give me that control. I always like things with. Sorry, I'm trying to think what
Mhm.
I was going to say. It slipped my mind. Oh yeah, like just cool products that things that like I actually want to promote. So things that I would like wear myself, or things that, you know, I think could bring joy to other people, and usually not like super cheesy stuff where people could come back to me and be like, "Hey, you promoted this, I got into it, and then like look where I'm at." You know,
Mm.
like I lost my money, or this product sucks, or, you know. I look at the clients and I make sure that their professional goals are, you know, kind of aligned with mine. Like they if they're going to deliver to a high standard, then like I'll deliver to a high standard, and kind of, you know, find pick in those jobs where you get the freedom, you love what you're promoting, and I think that makes for a great, you know, collaboration between a company and myself.
So smart. And then you're actually excited to actually do the project because it's a brand or a product that you already thoroughly enjoy. Your
Exactly. Yeah,
audience
yeah.
feels it. It's very cohesive. It actually like aligns, where it's like you're not out here making, no disrespect to Colgate if you're making like a toothbrush commercial, but like maybe that's something you're not really passionate about creating. And then it's like, okay, why is Rob doing this? You can almost see it and feel it in the piece itself. So I think it's good. You've had that mindset of like protecting the brand and thinking about the long term, and really doing so kind of makes you brands are more interested in probably wanting to work with you, because like this guy is so selective with who he actually promotes, that if he actually is interested in working with us, like it's his audience is gonna take real seriousness in like what he's actually promoting, and maybe that's the audience we're looking to tap into.
Yeah, no, I think that's like that's always my focus. If I can portray the product in a good way to my followers, and they believe that I believe in the product, I think that makes the video great. Because if I was able to portray like myself enjoying, or let's say it's a car brand, enjoying the car, having a good time with it, if I can portray that to other people and they can see kind of like a genuine reaction from it and think like, oh, he really believes in this, I think that's where you get that 100% with your advertisement, because the people trust you, they like the product, and now they're committed to the brand just as much as you are. So as long as you kind of get all those pieces together, that's mostly like what I'm looking for when I'm finding work. And yeah, it's when you have all of that, you love what you're creating, so you'll put the maximum effort into it, and you'll be excited to show the client what you come up with, because you had the creative freedom, you believed in them, and it's just a win-win all around for the followers, the client, and yourself.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I also love the community of mutual friends that we have. Like the easy way to figure out who knows who with somebody is obviously just looking at like mutual friends that follow somebody. And it's like, I
Yeah.
look, Rory Kramer, Como, Jeremiah Davis, Ryan Tierney, like all these hooligans. How, as somebody who's always been based out of Washington, it's one thing if you're in New York, if you're in LA, it's very easy to kind of meet up and like be in the right rooms with the right people. But I actually really respect that like you stay true to like your roots and have built an incredible career out of Seattle while also like building some incredible people around you. Like, how have you approached that?
Well, first off, hopefully maybe that might be changing soon, so we'll see about
Let's
that. but
go. Make
but
sure make sure it's in Venice if you're coming to LA. Make sure it's in Venice.
so we'll see about that.
Ooh,
But
a little
I think,
teaser right there.
yeah, you got it. But just because I wanna explore something else. I've grew up here. I've lived here. I wanna be surrounded with different people, different creative energy. But I guess like where the question before that, I think it was always like grabbing along my favorite photographers, my favorite friends who are in the video space, and kind of like planning trips with different people every single time. That way, I'd get to connect with them. We'd have an experience where we get to learn from each other, and we would get to explore a cool country together. So I
Wow.
never really felt like I was necessarily left out of like being in LA or being all in these like central hubs where a lot of creators are at. I think it was just cool to kind of single them out and take them along trips, and pick their brain. They get to pick mine. We learn something and we create something cool from the process.
That's actually best case scenario because doing what you did, that is amazing because it's like when you go on a trip with somebody for a week, you're living, eating, sleeping, doing everything with them for that week. And if this is a stranger on day one, they are your brother or your sister by day 7 if you're doing everything with them. Whereas,
Hmm.
yeah, you can move to LA and you're in the same city as somebody, but like maybe you just grab coffee once in a while. It's like a 2-hour thing, or because there's so many things happening in the city at once that it's like hard to. I would say you need a lot of touch points with somebody to really
Yeah.
build something genuine where it's like, let's go on a trip together. Let's have an experience. Let's be together, which means we're just going to enhance this relationship. You're also probably crushing out projects for clients at the same time. It's like I think you guys approached it the right way, like just traveling around and making great content, great relationships. Like
Yeah.
props
Yeah.
to
I
you. That was
think.
the way to
I
do it.
think. Thank you. I think like with like Jeremiah, like let's say him in this situation, right? Like he lives in LA. Like as of recent, I haven't gotten to see him too much, or if I have, it's like we go for a skydive or something like that. So it's not like really
No
like
biggie. Just quick skydive.
yeah. But it's nothing like really like personal, like where we connect and like kind of go beyond just like small talk. But we went on a trip, I think like 3 4 years ago at this point, where we went to the Philippines for like 2 weeks, and like we got to pick each other's brains, we got to learn something from each other. And like you said, like you get those touch points with a person where it's like funny moments happen during the trip, or like certain memories, or we collaborated on a cool photo together. And it doesn't matter if I see him like 3 years later, we have all those like cool memories together, and then we can just kind of connect and move on from that moment. So kind of having more time with that person in a separate area and separate friends, and just like focusing on each other, I think is a really cool way to build and, become friends with all these creators. And then you kind of take on the world together from there.
Ah, I love that. I love that. I think I need to start stealing that page out of your book and start inviting these people that I really want to get to know better on some
Yeah,
trips because
invite him out to Cancun.
that's gonna be a whole different route. We need some stillness. I'm in a different. When I was going to Cancun to the Bahamas, that was like full throttle party mode. I'm in a different space now. I want like mindfulness. I want peace. I want quietness. So
I figured.
it
I
might be
figured.
more of a
Yep, yep.
wellness curated trip, but we'll definitely add in some shenanigans here and there.
Love it. Love it.
Back in May, you had posted, quote unquote, I struggled being happy with my work and have realized it's making me overthink every piece that I put out. There should be a balance of professionalism and actually sharing an experience. Kind of just taking everything that we've talked about today. How have you learned to overcome the overthinking?
Yeah, I think it's just saying like, you know what, like who cares? I think that's been like one of my favorite questions I keep asking myself recently, just in life.
Mm,
A lot of the time, people look at us and you're like, oh, that person's judging me, or this person doesn't think that the video is this cool, or they might not like it. But then, like, who cares really?
mm,
At the end of the day, like I like to post it. Some people will enjoy it, some people will hate it. I think especially nowadays, everybody likes to voice their opinion on whatever's going on. So at the end of the day, if I, with the content that I'm posting, if I'm happy with it, if then I shouldn't really care. Like
mm.
what if like there's a few nasty comments, like who cares? Just block them, continue on with your day.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helped me step forward, like beyond that, like being a perfectionist, or like there's definitely a line of like being professional and being a perfectionist, but at one point it's, if you're not uploading any photos or you're not sharing your own work, you're just doing yourself a disservice.
Yes.
So yeah, at one point, who cares? Just keep uploading, keep posting. A few people won't like them, continue, move on with your life, and I think there'll be more benefit that'll come from it than loss necessarily. So
Oh, that's
yeah.
beautiful. That's a great mindset to have because no matter what you do, even if you're out there and you're like changing the world, if you're on the corner and you're handing out free food to every person that walks by, there's gonna
Yeah.
be somebody that walks by and makes a rude comment or talk shit about what you're trying to do. So that mindset of just who cares, like grab onto the energy of people supporting and loving it, and show love back and appreciate it.
Yeah.
And the people that don't care, like that show negative energy and just talk trash, whatever. That mindset of who cares and just keep going. That's
Yeah, yeah, they're wasting their
beautiful.
own energy, right? Like
Yes.
you just continue, move on, and yeah, that's been, I guess, the shift in mindset as of recently to keep posting, keep uploading, whatever. Like
Love
this
that.
is this is an old post, or like I took this photo like a year ago. Somebody's gonna notice, but like who cares? Like I want to share a photo from a year ago of a cool trip that I was on. Like
Oh my
Instagram has like become this thing where everything is in like such perfect guidelines of like this has to be from today. It's always got to be something new. It's always got to be something cool. You always got to be outdoing yourself. But like, do you really?
yeah.
Do you really? Like, who's keeping you on that track?
You know what's gonna happen? Somebody's gonna hear this podcast and they're gonna start leaving "Who cares" on your YouTube and your Instagram, and people are gonna think like, "Wow, this person's talking trash about Rob." But
Yeah,
in reality, it's a positive mindset. So if you hear this
yeah,
podcast
yeah.
today, go drop a comment on his recent post. Just say "Who cares," and he'll know. And make sure
Oh man.
just add a couple S's. Add a couple S's. He'll know that's the code for.
I'm gonna have some deep captions after this, and people are gonna be like, "Who cares?" I'll just get my feelings crushed after this one.
All right, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't do that.
No, 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 no. At least I know they heard the podcast, so I'm in. I'm committed.
That's classic. That's classic. All right, we're gonna get into the final five. These are just 5 questions, 1 sentence answers. First question: what self-care activities help you be your best self?
Like self care, as in what do I?
It could be working out, meditating,
Yeah,
journaling, anything.
I would say sports.
Sports,
Yeah,
love that.
yeah, like
Um,
soccer, volleyball, basketball, stuff like
soccer,
that.
volleyball, basketball. So we got a baller in the house. I got a professional volleyball player I'm living with. So when you make that, if you make that move to LA, we'll get you in the mix
Oh,
out here.
it's on. I love volleyball. Let's get it.
I love that. If you could go back and tell yourself one piece of advice at any point in your life, what would it be and when?
Um, Probably when I was like 19, I would just tell myself like, don't be afraid to fail.
That's good. It's really good. What's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
Mm, Probably like self-care.
Okay. Respect. What is the first step anyone can take to reaching their inner potential?
First step. That's a deep one.
That's it, baby.
Can you say it one more time?
Yep. What is the first step that anyone can take to reaching their inner potential? I'll give you an example. What I would say.
I'd probably
Yeah, like-
say take that first step.
Oh,
Is that what you're gonna say?
That's it. I literally,
Yeah.
what I was going to say to you, I was like, I'll give you an example, would be just start.
Yeah, take that
Just
first
start.
step.
Take the first step. Oh, that's good. You're
Yeah.
slick. No, nobody, I've asked that question probably 40, 50 times. Nobody said that.
I thought that's what you're gonna say back to me, but I was like, hey, honestly, that first step is important.
So good. So good. Last question. If somebody listened to this podcast, the last 52 minutes, they made it this far in the podcast, what is one challenge you have for the listener today? After they wrap up listening to this podcast, what is one challenge you have for the listener?
Maybe like to try something new or try something that makes them uncomfortable. Because I think like kind of what we went back to when we were talking about before about trying different avenues and maybe what you're filming now or like wherever craft you're in, if maybe that's not it at the moment. So try something new, see what else you love. So
it's good. Yeah. Seek the discomfort, step outside the comfort zone, see what comes to life.
Love
Rob,
that.
This has been such an incredible podcast. Truthfully, like just seeing what you've done in your career so far, it is inspiring. I'm nowhere near close to becoming a filmmaker, photographer at the scale of what you do, but watching you from afar and seeing what you've been able to build for your life is an inspiration to me of what is possible. So it's like when I see you taking these steps every single day and working with massive brands and doing all these incredible things, I use that as inspiration to myself. And so I was really excited to chat with you today because I think you are a great walking example of somebody that is daily working towards their inner potential and living truthfully a life that is authentic to you. And, as we talked about on this podcast, I think it's so easy that like, we are where we are today and we got all these bigger and better things. But when we take that moment, and I hope today was a moment for you to like think about what you've done and use that and internalize that as this massive fire for you to keep going. And it really has been a pleasure. And I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love just sitting down, picking each other's brains. It's always a good time. And thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully somewhere out there, somebody heard something and learned from it and had a good time.
I'm sure they enjoyed it. Hopefully I'll be bumping shoulders with you in LA at some point.
Oh, I hope so. Sooner than later.
Fingers crossed. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this podcast today, I got a favor to ask. Screenshot whatever platform you're listening on, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or you're not listening on Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, whatever platform you're listening to the podcast on right now, screenshot it, post it to your IG story, tag Rob. He is at Rob Strok. That's ROBSTROK. Tag him, tag me at Bobbbaaaay. That's BO, 3 B's, 4 A's, and Y. Share out the podcast on your IG story. Let us know what the biggest takeaway was. What was the learning? What was the nugget? How did this podcast episode impact you? I would be so curious to learn. So please let us know. I will have all of Rob's social linked up below. Please shoot him a follow on Instagram if you do not yet already follow him, or check out his YouTube content. He's got some great stuff there. Any other places people should be finding your work?
No, that all sounds about good.
Amazing. Rob Strok, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Man Podcast. See ya.